It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce to you Britt DiNatale, who is a clinical insight, works for the Clinical Insight Collective in Washington, D.C., and this is going to be an excellent presentation. Building engagement with transformational leaders, power impact of training nurse managers in articulating professional role clarity. Tread not lightly with your nurse managers. If you've never been a nurse manager, you have no idea what they're having to go through. So, Britt, come on up.
Thank you. Good morning. Oh, thank you. Such a polite applause. So polite. Well, you're good. You're good. You're good. I am, anybody who knows me knows I am a firm believer in coffee. So I will not be offended. Please, if you are in need of coffee, go get it. Go get it, and I will fully support, and we will carry on. All right, let's get myself organized here. Day 2. How are we feeling? Hey. So, I feel like this has become the standard pose for this. Have you guys noticed this? Is this what we do? Professional relax. I am professional and I am relaxed. Yeah, my name is Britt. I think there is value, and we've already talked about it in terms of just acknowledging where we come from, which giants' backs we are standing on, why we are doing what we are doing, what makes us passionate about it. So I'm going to take just a minute and tell you a little bit about who I am. My grandmother was a nurse, World War II Army nurse. She made the decision to get on a boat in 1950 and sailed across the Atlantic with my grandfather and an infant to become a missionary nurse in Nigeria. She then spent most of her adult life in East Africa. They had transitioned over to Kenya and Tanzania, Uganda, as a missionary nurse. Enter teenage young adult Britt, daughter of a Baptist minister, grew up in the church. I wanted nothing to do with it. I didn't want to be a part of the family business. No offense. I saw nursing as traditional, as very female, and I was a rebel. I wanted to do things differently. I wanted to be different. Nursing was not for me. Spoiler alert. I managed to land a job, we'll skip through some of the details, in marketing. I ended up in the corporate world. I was wearing my high heels and my suit to my office in Manhattan on the 45th floor every day. I was traveling the world quite stylishly. I had managed, through a bit of luck and a bit of skill, to end up in an executive role for a broadcast company doing technology work as the VP of Marketing and Business Development. On paper, I was rocking it. Real life, I was unhappy. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't feel like I was myself. I didn't feel like I was doing something that made a difference in the world. And I walked away. At the time, I had a partner who ended up in the hospital with what turned out to be an immune deficiency. We didn't know it at the time. And I saw some nurses working firsthand. And it started to open my eyes a little bit, that maybe it wasn't exactly what I thought it was. I watched how they worked. I ended up in the ER my whole career. I watched these triage nurses and was like, whoa. They are doing some, I'm gonna try really hard not to curse in this, you guys. I might fail. If I do, please forgive me. They were doing it all. There was nothing traditional or hand-holding or passive about what I was witnessing. And I started to get more involved and more interested. I realized that I wanted to have a skill that I felt like could make a difference in the world. I started to volunteer. I started to pay more attention. Fast forward, I did a big 180. I went back to school. I spent 10 years working in the ED in DC. In this time, I started to pay more attention to what was happening around me, and I continuously began to realize and reinforce the power and the influence of nurses in our healthcare system. It is no joke. And then I start to meet people like Dr. O'Rourke, Dr. Luce. I'm like, these are some badass women. Look at what they are doing. This is not, they are standing up and fighting for what we know is the backbone of healthcare. So I love the fact that I get to be on day 2 after we had this great day yesterday, because I think what Dr. O'Rourke has done is laid this amazing foundation in professional role identity of what we're doing, what we're here to do, laying it out really clearly. I loved that Dr. Long then kind of built on that and talked about the importance of embracing our power and our influence, because that is the why. We are indeed 5 million strong. We are indeed the backbone of healthcare, the largest segment of the healthcare workforce, the closest to the community, the closest to the patients. We are the bridge and the connection to the health of our communities, and we have to own that. I then began to transition into how I could use some of these previous life skills that I had completely walked away from into broadcasting who we are as nurses. So this is the work that I get to do now with the Clinical Insight Collective. And what I'm going to talk about today is taking that next step from the what and the why into how. How do we articulate this? How do we talk about it? Oh boy, what is it about up here that makes your nose run? This is not attractive. All right, nope, that was the wrong button. Oh, it's the giant green arrow in the middle. Who knew? Who knew? All right, objectives for today. We're just gonna run through this really quickly, but I do wanna highlight that my goal here is to kind of distinguish between the internal and the external. That we need the internal understanding, we also need the skills to articulate externally. We're gonna talk a little bit about a communication framework that is based on high impact engagement. I wanna talk about the leadership narrative that we can use as a bridge, as a tool in communicating, and then a little bit about how we have seen this work with nurse managers directly impact engagement and retention. Oh, what happened to my door? It went on to line 2. All right. These stats are not news. I know you guys have seen them. I actually saw this week that the new ones are out. Guess what? They're not any better. Turnovers actually ticked back up. I think we're back in the 17% range. But essentially, we are in this same dumpster fire that is right here. I love that Dr. O'Rourke talks about singing from a sheet of music all the time in her work when I've seen her speak. There's a sheet of music that's playing right here. Do you know what it is? There's a hole in my bucket, dear Eliza, dear Eliza. There's a hole in my bucket. 1 in 6 walking out the door. Almost 25% of new nurses leaving in the first 2 years. This is a massive problem. And it is an expensive problem. And I want to highlight that it's an expensive problem because we have to be able to talk about the ROI of what we're getting ready to do. We need to be able to translate that into the dollars and cents. And there is real dollars and cents in this. We can't afford not to fix this. I adore the work that I have seen and heard about happening. St. Mary's, Dr. O'Rourke, building this pipeline in a different and new way. But the reality is, and what I want to talk about today, is the work environment they're going into. We cannot recruit our way out of this problem. There is not a pipeline that can fix the rate at which folks are leaving. So we have to address the environment that they're walking into. The burnout problem is complex. There is not a simple solution, but we know what some of the factors are. And engagement has really positive indicators on how we can influence folks to potentially stay. So I want to focus in on that engagement piece. So the foundation, though, is our what. So we've seen this graphic a couple of times now, right? This is Dr. O'Rourke's theory. I love how this is laid out, and I think it is very eloquent in giving us that foundation for a role-driven practice. I also love that the statement around it is that role clarity is not a destination. I think that's a really important call out, probably for a lot of us in life in general, right? We all think that if we just get to that one point, then it'll be fixed. And that's not life. But this dynamic and continuous realignment is what gives us the map, the roadmap to that vigor, that inspiration, that dedication that drives. So the what is there. The why has been laid out as well in transfer of knowledge. We can't keep this in our heads, right? We are obligated to be able to share information. We're obligated to share evidence, education, decision-making. We have to be able to transfer knowledge, and not just information, but knowledge. I know AI has come up some, it's inevitable because it is everywhere. It's a whole nother presentation, so I'm not gonna go into great detail, but I just wanna call out the fact it's coming, it's here, right? AI is going to continue to sweep up the task-driven portion of our profession and everybody else's. So all of these task-oriented roles that we've gotten into, habits that we've gotten into, are going to change. And what's going to be left behind? The uniquely human component of what we do as nurses. And a big piece of that is the ability to transfer knowledge. So how do we do it? I want to take a second and call out managers specifically. Let's talk leaders for a second. Who here has had a good leader in their career? Tell me some of the characteristics of your good leader. Just shout them out. Boy, you were weird. One more time. I didn't catch those. Open communication. What was one of the other ones? Engaged. Transparency. Trustworthy. Authentic. Respect. Empathetic. Present. Confident. Self-aware. Competent. Interest in the actual people growing. Transformation. All right, that was not hard. You guys came up with those abundantly and quick. Bad leaders. Not you. Who has ever worked for someone that they would choose never to work for again? Spoiler alert, because I can see all of you, and maybe you can't. Everybody's hand has gone up both times. I know that's probably a big news flash. Tell me some of the characteristics of the bad leader. Hot mess, I love it. She's just like, oh. Lazy? I hope you guys can hear these. Procrastination, I think micromanagement. I heard condescending. I heard something over here that I didn't catch. Dismissive, and then I think not trustworthy, absent. Boy, you guys got them. All right, so guess what the point is here? It's actually twofold. You know what a good and a bad leader is. Those words came quick and hot, right? We know on paper what that is. That's not the same thing as being able to do it. The implementation piece in the day-to-day is tough. It's tough. But those leaders have an outsized impact on you. You clearly remember these folks very vividly when you're telling me these words, right? You have specific people that are coming to mind as you're shouting out these characteristics. Nurse managers have an outsized impact on our nursing workforce. AONL and Laudio actually quantified it a couple of years ago here with the single purposeful monthly interaction per nurse equaling a 7 percentage point improvement in annual nurse retention. Our nurse managers are sitting in the middle of a sea of all of it, right? Clinical requirements, operational demands, people leadership, they are in the middle. They are the air traffic controllers keeping this, I was gonna say keeping this ship afloat. I'm mixing my metaphors. We got air, we got sea. They're doing it all, right? The ripple effect of their ability to lead effectively is massive. Okay, we're gonna have a little fun. You guys ready? Can you tell I like to have fun? I'm gonna do a little experiment with you, and then we're gonna talk about this slide. In case you didn't figure it out already, I love music. There's a whole nother chapter that I skipped over about music in my life. It's how I ended up in New York in the first place. But I'm using it more and more because I genuinely believe there's a connection. What I want you to do is I want you to give me some of the noises, some of the sounds that you hear at work. IV beeping. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna slow you down here because I'm gonna actually, you guys might not offer it as quickly once you find out what you have to do. IV beeping, what does it sound like? Yep. Okay, I love it. That was brilliant. You did a great job. Phones? What does it sound like? Wait.
It has like 5 sounds in a row.
I was gonna say, what kind of phone are you using? This is. Okay, a telephone.
Yeah, telephone.
Okay, I'm still old. I do this for telephone. You guys learned the difference? If you want to hear a really funny story afterwards, ask me about telephones. What sound does your telephone make?
It like makes 4 or 5 ring sounds right in a row, and then it does it again.
Okay, so da 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 da. Da 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 da. All right, so she's got a da 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 phone. All right, what were some of the other ones? Who else shouted something out?
For some reason, I'm not a music major.
Yes, ma'am. Oh. Oh. She's going legit. All right. Now, I do genuinely, though, I want to hear your voice reenactment of that. When you go to sleep at night and you're still hearing it, what's the noise you would make? Yeah. That was spot on. Well done. All right, somebody from this side of the room.
Clutter.
Clutter?
Clutter. Just like supplies or just messy
Uh-huh. What is it?
noise to me.
Oh, what does it sound like to you?
I don't know.
Ah. Oh. I like that. I like that. I love this. Did you guys hear that? The knock knock, you have a minute? You have a minute question. You have a minute? Gotta go up. You have a minute? All right, one more. You know what comes next. Uh-huh. All right. Top 3, let's see. Let's go with, let's combine beeping and monitor back here. All right, we're gonna have a combined beeping monitor as like a unified sound. All right? So, this side of the room, let's hear over. All together in unison, I wanna hear your beeping. You guys ready? Beep, 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 beep. Excellent. Beautiful work. All right, middle of the room. What do we want as our as our noise. What do we have? Typing? All right, typing. Ready? Good job. You guys are pros. All right, what was one of the sounds? Did anybody ever hear it and give me a sound? Knocking, knocking. All right, you're gonna go in with this group. No typing for you, you're gonna knock. All right, knocking. Yeah. One more time. Love it. All right. On the count of 3, all of you, noises. You're assigned noises. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Oof. Does this sound familiar? Yeah? Is this the chaos that lives in our brains most day?
This is making me relive voicemails from my husband when he goes into the ER and I get voicemails of the call bell and the alarms.
Yes. Yes. And that's just like secondary through the phone line. Yeah. It's chaos. It's a lot. And it's all real. All these are valid, completely valid sounds. All right. Here's the fun part. My beepers. All right? We're going to do 3 beeps, and then I'm going to go to these guys, okay? We ready? 1, 2, 3. We ready? 1, 2, 3. Good. I gotta walk in front of this thing. All right, our knockers, we ready? 1, 2, 3. Good. All right. So, here's what we're gonna do. One at a time, we're gonna go beep. I gotta remember the sounds. Beep, type, knock. Okay? So I'm gonna count to 3, and then on the second round of 3, beep, type, knock. Just one time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good. All right. Now I'm going to test your real musical genius. All right, you ready? Actually, you would be shocked how many people in health professions, if you ask around, you're going to find some musical geniuses in your midst. Thank you. Nancy knows the deal. All right. We're going to do it one more time. But you guys are going to do it somewhat independently. Okay? So we're going to do 1, 2, 3 in progression. And then we're going to continuously loop it. We're going to create a loop, a sample, as the kids say. All right? So we're going to go all together. 1, 2, 3. There's a hole in my bucket. Keep going. Dear Liza, there's a hole in my bucket. Dear Liza, there's a hole. We need a little rehearsal. But hopefully you kind of get the sense of what I'm trying to point out here. There's a lot of noise. We are in an information era. Access to information is no longer the barrier, right? There was a time when that was our differentiating factor. The people who had access to information that was where you found your value professionally. We all have access now. The value now is being able to distinguish, differentiate, pull out what we need to know. And one of the ways that we do that is by building connection. Nurses are fixers. Nurses tend to be over-functioners. The onslaught comes and we just keep pushing. We keep pushing, we keep going, get it out, there's more, right? What we need to be doing is pulling out the thread of what we're trying to communicate. We can take this noise and turn it into something that we can distinguish. And that's what leaders can do. Hopefully you're not gonna have to sing "Hole in a Bucket" to your staff, right? But you can take the noise and turn it into something that has a message. It actually came up yesterday, which is interesting, but there is a golden feedback phrase that's been proven and studied. I think it's called the 19-word feedback phrase. And I'll get it wrong, so don't count the words. But they did a study on middle schoolers writing essays. And in the control group, they gave the typical standard feedback that we've all gotten at some point in school. And then in the other group, in addition to their regular feedback, they got this specific phrase. I am giving you this feedback because we have high standards here, and I know that you can meet them. And it turns what is correction into a vote of confidence. It bridges a trust gap. And in that study, in the control group, 17% of the students revised their essay. The group that got that additional golden feedback, 72% revised their essays, and they were better. So that feedback hits 3 points: transparency, excellence, and belonging. And those are really key areas to tie into. What I want you to take away, more than anything, is that connection is a clinical necessity. This is not a nice to have. It is actually the bridge that we need to get from clinical requirement to human need. So we have our what, as I mentioned, right? We have our scope and standards and our code of ethics and a framework that gives us our what. We have our why. It is our professional role identity, why we're here doing what we're doing. We have a how now in enabling the voice of leaders. And we have high impact tools that we can use that give us real ROI on what connection can do. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about how we turn this into an operational blueprint with something called the Nurse Lead program. Using this foundational roadmap, running it through adult learning theory, application-based, something we called Learn, Try, Share, we created a 6-month cohort for nurse managers. This cohort was hybrid, so the first day and a half was in person, and then the remaining months was a monthly virtual 3.5-hour meeting. And I want to call that out because there was a very distinct community aspect to this cohort that turned out to be quite important. Because there was a realization that so many of these nurse leaders feel incredibly alone and isolated in their challenges, feeling like it's them. That they haven't gotten it right, that they are the shortfall and the shortcoming. So finding that community of people and the realization it's not just me was life-changing for a lot of folks. But the didactic component is what you see on the left, the 6 modules. And this is really taking them through this journey of internalizing their values, understanding their influence as leaders, and then how to articulate it out. These are just skills. These are skills that we need to learn, just like anything else. There are different ways that we can do things, and we cannot assume that everyone knows what the outcome and the impact is going to be. right? We would never do that with clinical skills. I would never tell you how to insert a Foley, how to maintain a sterile field, and then send you on your way. That's not enough, right? We have to build the skills to be able to do it. And I'm sure we all have very distinct memories as a nursing student, whether recent or not, on trying to put sterile gloves on for the first time. My God, right? We have to practice it. The other story I love to tell is I had an aunt, God bless her, who had a beautiful singing voice. And she loved birthday parties. The reason she loved birthday parties is because she was just waiting for that moment when it was time to sing happy birthday. And without fail, she would belt out in her full-throated voice, "Happy birthday, happy birthday, doom and gloom is everywhere." You get the gist, right? And she thought it was hilarious every single time. My dad, on the other hand, is still a huge fan of the Applebee's waitstaff. Happy, happy birthday, happy, happy birthday, happy, happy birthday to you, right? Both of them are happy birthday. Do they communicate the same message? Right? In a different way. So we have to take seriously these ideas around building an engaged team, navigating change, communicating for impact. These are skills that leaders need. And too often, nurse managers have been promoted because they're excellent clinicians. I actually just saw this week, someone shared with me, I don't actually know how brand new it is, but Gallup just released new numbers on manager engagement specifically. Now, it's beyond just healthcare, but the engagement of managers has dropped fairly dramatically. It was down like 9%. And the reason behind it in this particular article was not that they care less. It was because the support system has not kept up with what they need to support the positions that they're in and the ways that their positions have expanded and grown. So the goal in the Nurse Lead program is to bridge this gap. And it's really around 3 key areas, right? We're trying to get from a state of transaction to a state of connection. And these are the differences. The core function is, are we transferring information or are we creating understanding? Dr. O'Rourke's framework doesn't say transfer information. It says transfer knowledge. That is the creation of understanding. Nurse role identity. Are we speaking to our teams as these operational task completers? Or are we tapping into and validating their clinical expertise? Are we drawing that out and tapping into that in how we communicate with our teams? And then finally, cognitive impact. We haven't really talked about this yet, but I love this one because it's quite simple to think about. It's hard to do, but simple. Are we creating cognitive load or are we creating cognitive ease? And the easiest way to explain this is if you ask somebody what time it is. Hopefully you're not looking at your watch already and being like, geez, is she done? How are we doing? Oh, we're getting close. We got 5 minutes? 10 minutes? If you ask your neighbor, "Psst, what time is it?" And your neighbor goes, "Psst, did you know that in modern day clocks, they actually use quartz crystals? They're shaped like tuners and they vibrate over 32,000 times per second." No, that's not what I wanted to know. I wanted to know what time it is. Don't tell me how to build a clock. Tell me what time it is. Right? Has anybody ever heard of the Van Halen Eminem story? I'm learning I have to actually, has anybody heard of Van Halen? Sometimes in my audiences these days I have to actually realize that I'm aging myself. They had a rider that they shared with venues. And deep in that rider, there was a stipulation that in the training room, oh, I am doing it just naturally. Did you see that? I just did it so naturally. Deep in there was a stipulation that they needed to have a bowl of M&Ms in the dressing room. No brown M&Ms. Now, on the surface, this sounds like a real diva move, right? There was actually a real purpose behind it. Van Halen put on a very highly technical show. Anybody who's familiar, right? There was a lot happening. He wasn't just sitting down strumming a guitar in a coffee shop. They wanted to know that these venues had thoroughly read and understood the technical requirements of the show that they were getting ready to put on. Not only so that they could put on a good show, but so that they could do it safely. And this was their way of ensuring that people were paying attention. If you got a newsletter in your inbox next week, and in the middle of that newsletter it said, the purple cow flies at midnight, do you think you'd catch it? Food for thought. The goal here, though, is to help these leaders move from being competent operators into transformational leaders. Going from internalizing these professional values to being able to authentically articulate these values to their teams. An example, huddle. I like to call huddle the great lint roller, right? We start off with great intentions, and before you know it, we've picked up every piece of lint and fuzz that's been floating around that hospital unit for the last 6 months, right? And what that leaves us with is noise. We're now in cognitive overload. We are using too much jargon. We are talking about administrative tasks. If we filter that through strategic relatability and narrative-driven communication, what we can end up with is this very tight structure. We're going to use a hook, a point, and a call to interaction. Our hook is a story. It's short. It highlights success. The point is that we have thought through how that story relates to our professional identity that we are building together. And then there's a call to interaction. In marketing, we call it a call to action, a CTA. But I like to call it a call to interaction because one of the biggest challenges as a leader in engaging your team is building their interaction back in. Right? So the question then becomes, tell me one thing that I can do this week to protect your time for moments like that. Questions that I need answers to, not rhetorical, right? Just quickly, I want to highlight the results that we found in this Nurse Lead program. I don't expect you to be able to read the one on the top left, but I'm a very visual person, and it makes me happy every time I see it because confidence went up in every single skill. The skills are listed out there on the right. You can read them, right? But these areas of self-awareness and valuing differences, things that we talk about as the soft, nice to have, are real skills that leaders are craving. They want to know how to do it. And we saw a huge impact. Managing conflict, having language that drives engagement and promotes joy. All of these things were areas where we saw huge improvements in leaders' confidence. And if we go back to that original nurse manager slide where we see that they are at the center of everything, the impact and the ripple effect of that across the organization is also huge. So we want to remember the impact that they have. I was going to tell you a story about a case study, but you'll have my email at the end. I think it's really interesting. It's another just kind of application of how leaders can use this, but send me an email. I'll be happy to share it with you. But there are tools that we can use to audit how we're doing. But at the end of the day, what I really want you to do is have a framework and 3 questions to ask yourself. So think for a second about something that you're working on. Maybe it's a new initiative. Maybe it's one of those beautiful gifts from the C-suite that's wrapped in barbed wire that you have to communicate out. Right? What are we going to do? We're going to think about where the connection gap is. Are we building connection, or are we transactional? And that's usually connected to whether or not we are validating identity. Are we treating others as those clinical experts that we know that they are here to do? Are we reducing the noise? Did we tell the time, or did we try to build a clock? And then, we got a little another funky relatability came down on the next line. Is it relatable? And this is where you use narrative-driven communication. And understanding your leader narrative is the first step. So knowing what your why is, why you're here and what you're doing, is how we build this. So the goal is to move from isolated to empowered. I mentioned that in the cohort that was something that we discovered. Folks feel isolated. And when we can build that connection, it really helps them to feel empowered instead. Because they're not just sharing information, they're creating understanding. And I think some of these quotes that we got out of it really say it all. It reassures me that the work we are doing is hard, but it is doable. Nurse leaders aren't afraid of hard work. They just need to know how to do it. It's funny that you did this yesterday, because this was already in the slides, obviously, but this is something that we do as well. One word to close. We do it at the beginning and at the end. And unsurprisingly, at the beginning, most of the words are exhausted, frustrated, tired, angry. And these are a sampling of the words that we get at the end. So I want to encourage you to think about how to use these tools for high impact engagement. I want you to think about what your leader narrative is and how you can use that to share your why and build on that to engage your teams. And I want you to really remember and practice how we connect that to a real dollars and cents value. Because we can't afford not to be investing in our nursing teams. And we have to keep preaching that over and over again. I want to close just by acknowledging, again, my gratitude for those that have laid an incredible groundwork for us to keep working. Because there's so much to be done. I did end up becoming a nurse. And in the later years, I have reevaluated my grandmother. She grew up on the wrong side of the railroad tracks in Charleston, South Carolina. This was in the 50s. Nursing was a different ballgame. She had some stuff she wanted to do. And she was out there blazing that trail, running clinics, treating the people the way she knew that she could, owning and embracing that power that she knew she had as a nurse. And I can see that now. Turns out all along she was also leading the way, blazing the trail. She was a badass. See, I think that was my only curse word. Did I do okay? That one's not, is that really a curse word? All right, resources. Also, I would love to connect with folks. I've already met a lot of really interesting people. My LinkedIn profile is there on the QR code, so please feel free in case I miss folks in person. I would love to connect. And thank you very much. I do, Nancy. So on the side, I've actually also am launching for the first time a wellness retreat that is exclusively for nurses. So this is a bit of a side project, but it's something that I'm passionate about. we deserve and need a space to simply exist for a little while. That is not necessarily education driven. There are going to be workshops offered that are about the nursing voice. There's going to be creative activities available for people to just explore. There is going to be nature, there is going to be yoga, there is going to be time outside. The goal is to really provide that space to return to yourself. And I think nurse leaders deserve that. And I am really excited to be able to provide a space that offers that. So thank you. Come see me. I would be happy to share it with you. It's going to be in July. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about AI, and I resonate. Thank you. I resonate with what you said, that AI is here, so it's up to us to decide what we want to do with it. Do you have any, do you have suggestions, especially for nurse leaders, any suggestions for courses in AI that we can take advantage of? I mean, I took some AI courses, and then in the middle of it, I realized, oh, this is definitely not for me. You're giving me too much technical stuff. I just need stuff that I can be able to get my work done, so then I can engage more with my staff. Do you have any suggestions for programs like that?
It depends on your specific needs, right? I think it's a great example, though, of information overload. And I feel the same way, right? Like, I don't want to get left behind in the dust. And I almost never feel older than when I'm in a crowd talking about AI, right? I feel old as dirt because I feel like I can't keep up. So I think it's really important to seek out the specific tools, the one lane that you need assistance with, right? Whatever that thing might be, and look it up, because it probably exists, right? So maybe that is email inbox management. And there are tools out there that can do amazing things in your email inbox, right? So if that's an area that you know that you want a little support in, look for that specific thing, and you will likely find it. But the thing I want to say the most about AI is keep pushing to be at the table. Your organizations are bringing in AI tools, whether it's in early stages or late stages. We have to be noisy about the fact that we need to be involved in how those are going to be implemented. Because it's already starting to happen where organizations are spending big bucks on tools, and they roll it out, and the nurses are like, no. Right? And that doesn't do anybody any good. They're frustrated, we're frustrated, and everybody's just at a loss. So we have to keep advocating again and again and again that we need to be part of that conversation in bringing those tools in, and that's where we can also educate ourselves around what that might be. So if your organization is working on something, you know it's in the pipeline, go educate yourself on it, right? So that you can have an educated conversation with your team about it.
And follow my own practice. Squeakily. I just wanted to comment that this was an excellent presentation for a couple of reasons. You proved, in actual fact, how theory works. That theory matters, that it's not foo-foo talk, that it's not esoteric, that it drove the structure and the content and the process to get the outcome. We need to do more of that in response to just telling, well, this is what you should do. We can't tell people what to do. They have to think it up. They have to be thinker-uppers. And you gave them the structure for thinking up how they can say it better. And I think that was extraordinarily value to everybody in the audience, I hope. Theory does matter. We're theorists every single day. You're a theory about how you're going to get out of bed in the morning. Some mornings my theory is about maybe I'm not, and some days maybe it is. And so we theorize all the time, but in nursing, and we'll talk more about this on Friday, the anti-intellectualism about why do you need to have a theoretical framework to drive your structure so that you can get a better outcome. And you've just shown that in real time, and I really want to say I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thanks.